They were super accommodating. And I think it speaks to, they see that value that we're talking about. They see how great this can be, and they feel good about everyone who's a part of this process. So they're excited to move forward, and we're excited to work with them. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Cashing Out, brought to you each week by Hoban Law. With me today is my co-host, Dena Jalbert from Align Business Advisory Service. Hi, Dena.
Hey, Dan.
And our legal advisor, attorney Larry Mishkin from Mishkin Law and Hoban Law. Hi, Larry.
Hey, Dan. How are you? Hi, Dena.
Well, we've been bogged down for the past few weeks in negotiation, and it's made it very difficult for us to build a show around what's going on because things are changing sometimes hourly. But the good news is we've wrapped up our negotiations and, drumroll, we have a signed LOI. So very exciting. So we're going to do a show today about the LOI and where we are from there. We were hoping to get the buyer on the show, but the buyer doesn't want to be disclosed who they are. And I can understand why. They certainly don't want to be a guest on the show just yet. So we're going to keep their identity confidential, at least for now. I can say that it's going to be a strategic acquisition, and everything points to this is going to make both entities stronger. Dena, you've been in the middle of this since its inception. What can you tell us about this deal compared to others?
Yes, you hit it right on the head. This is a true strategic synergy, if I've certainly ever seen one. Going up the market, we talked to so many different varieties of buyers, and they all would have their own version of strategic value. And essentially, this particular buyer has a unique place and ability to add a ton of value to the show and to the partner. And that is really what came out in the end. And everyone's really excited because I think it's going to mean great things on a go-forward basis. And it's one of my favorite situations where everybody wins. Not to say it wasn't stressful along the way. We had to negotiate a lot of terms. We went around and around and kind of talked about this and what about that. And especially if there's a time component to it, got to try to get it in by a certain day and time. That can always bring anxiety. And I would say it did a bit, didn't it, Dan, at the end there?
Yeah, we got it right down to the wire, but I got to say the buyer is super professional and really, really accommodating. They were so good to work with. I mean, just give everybody sort of a behind the scenes look. An example is that my partners weren't comfortable about sharing a lot of information until we had an LOI. So we were kind of in a bit of a catch-22. But fortunately, the buyer broke the stalemate and gave us the LOI without a lot of the information that they normally would look for. So it just really says a lot about this type of the partner or the future partner and just what type of business people they are. Just real professional, real straightforward, straight shooter type of people.
Absolutely. They were super accommodating. And I think it speaks to, they see that value that we're talking about. They see how great this can be, and they feel good about everyone who's a part of this process. So they're excited to move forward, and we're excited to work with them. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And again, we can't disclose everything, but the deal is kind of broken up into essentially three parts. There's some upfront money, there's some stock, and there's some earnout.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes the mechanics of them are structured in various ways. There's an overall value that's placed, the sale price, if you will, and then that value is broken up into certain points. And so this one is very common structure where there's some money at closing, some of it's in cash, and the rest is earned out. And the earnout's over a period of time and usually tied to some condition or other. Yeah,
and as a seller in the cannabis industry, I know I feel this way, and I've talked to a lot of other people that feel this way, is you're kind of in that position where you're a little bit of seller's remorse because you're like, wow, this industry is exploding and, you don't want to walk away yet. But the nice part about having stock, especially in a company like, the buyer, is that there's huge potential for upside because these guys are really making things happen. So that's an exciting part for me, is just knowing that, yeah, while you're kind of stepping away from your baby, you still have stock. You're not giving it up completely, I guess is what I'm saying.
That's a good point. Yep, that's very well said, because you're right. A lot of people in this industry, their quintessential timing question, is it too soon? Should I wait? What's going to happen? What if? And none of us have a crystal ball. And so you're right, stock is a way to still gain that consideration and that value, but then still get to ride the growth.
Well, Larry, Dena just said it. The ball just got thrown right into your court. Yeah. And that is not your first clam bake, but tell us a little bit about what happens next after an LOI has been signed and now the fun begins for the attorneys.
Well, that's true. This is the real nuts and bolts of the negotiation and of what the deal is going to be. Hopefully, with two sides who negotiated the LOI, both in good faith, it gives us a good starting point. But as you add in other terms and conditions to fill out full agreement and everything else that's required, people look at it and all of a sudden terms in the LOI may not seem like they were. So we sit down with the attorneys and the negotiation within the spirit of the LOI.
In this case, not only do you have a buyer and a seller, but you have a third party involved, and that's the managing partners of the show. So we have a whole nother set of dynamics. And I think that's, at least in my mind, one of the reasons why I selected this buyer or agreed to a deal with this buyer is because, as I said earlier, they're so accommodating. With three entities in the negotiation, that's going to make it even more complicated for you.
Well, it does, but by the same token, that's exactly the purpose of the LOI. And in this instance, it's important for you guys to be able to show your managing partner that you've actually got a real deal, that you've got a real company out there, and there's real terms to all of this, and that they need to take it seriously. And this isn't just small talk. You're ready to bring a real player to the table, and now we count on the managing partner for cooperation in helping see this thing through to the conclusion. It's in everybody's best interest. You're ready to move on. You have somebody who's ready to step in, and certainly from the managing partner's perspective, it would seem to me that they would want to be partnered up with somebody who wants to be there. So it would seem to be a natural fit all the way around. But this is where negotiations can go sideways, right? The managing partner can say, well, if you want me to do this, and I want you to do that, I want you to pay me for this, or I want credits on what I owe you for that, whatever the case may be. And there's a certain amount of leverage that they have in that instance because of their position as the manager of the entity. But, again, it swings both ways, because if they make the deal too onerous and so you say, screw it, I can't do this, and you walk away, then, you're still in the situation where you don't want to be, and presumably they don't want you there if you don't want to be there, but they just interfered with your opportunity to move on and give them a happier partner, let's say. So it is very important, but I do think that it helps a lot to be able to walk in to the managing partner's office and sit down and say, here's a fully completed and signed LOI. So now you can see that we're all serious about this. We're ready to move forward. These guys are going to be real players in this deal, and it's time to cooperate.
Yeah. I also think it's super important that it's a strategic deal. So we're not just replacing one with the other. You're replacing one, and they're bringing in some advantages that I might not have been able to provide. So that's another plus side. So, okay.
Right.
Yeah. Anything else, Larry, from your end? This is really early. I mean, we have a feeling that a lot of twists and turns in the next couple months, but anything else that you want to just touch on right now in the early stages?
Well, I think that the other important thing to keep in mind is, there's this sense that, oh my God, thank God we've reached this point in time, and thank God we've gotten here, and, thank God that we've got a real offer on the table. And so it's kind of like winning the first battle. But you have to remember, not to draw the analogy out in the wrong direction, that's just one of many, and it's really the first one. And now what it's kind of done is open the door to start focusing on the second one. And the second one is really much bigger, much more involved. It's going to make this initial negotiation look like kid stuff, because, right, we can all negotiate on the LOI and say, look, even if we don't necessarily agree with this, for now, let's just say we agree with it. We know it's non-binding, and that gets us to the next stage. After this, there is no next stage other than a signed agreement that both sides have to live with. So this will be the period in time where people are going to, if there's anything they want, this is when we're going to hear about it.
Yeah, this is probably less than the first quarter of a football game. It's probably first 5 minutes of the game. Yeah, well, at least the game has begun, right, Dena?
That's exactly right. Yeah, you said that very well, Larry. We're just in the early innings. There's a lot of game left to be played, and luckily, prior to our LOI, we did have a chance to talk to the third party, and all signs are hopefully pointing to cooperation. But as to Larry's last point, when the rubber hits the road, sometimes things change. It'll be interesting, and we're excited to move on to the next phase.
Us too. So for our listeners, if anybody has any thoughts or ideas or suggestions, please email us at connect@mjbulls.com. And Larry and Dena's email information and contact information is on the MJ Bulls website. So if you need to talk to them about anything that they're doing or anything that you're doing and you want their advice, you can always reach them there. And last but not least, quick thank you to Jamie Humiston for composing the music for the show. I have a feeling the next few weeks are going to be a lot more interesting. So stay tuned, everyone. Larry, Dena, thank you for being on the show and all the work that you've done up until now.
Pleasure.
And
Glad to be able to help.
we will see everyone next week on Cashing Out.